Welcome to the Love That Guy podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Ronnie Gene Blevins.
And this is Brendan Reynolds.
He got third, all for billing at the end of each picture. That don't really mean much, he would say with a grin. But he held my hand tight when he poured his name out. Only 4 or 5 names down below Errol Flynn.
We are the show that celebrates the journeyman actors, the actors we all know and love, and even though we might not always know their names, we inevitably see them in film and television and think to ourselves, we love that guy. Sometimes I feel a little bit fraudulent because I feel like I have this like great knowledge of contemporary filmmakers, but I hear, friends like you, and they'll talk, or you might be talking with a guest in this show about like these, like a Fellini film or, and I just, I kind of feel like shit. There's just so much to know in film and so many filmmakers to know. And I feel like I lost so much time, just not learning all I could, and not like, and I just,
you've been living it, longer. Like when I was in grad school studying, you were acting, in LA. So
yeah,
you're like, yeah, I think it's different.
Yeah.
You come from that mold of those new Hollywood actors. I mean, Jack's your hero, and
yeah,
you got your Jeremy Pitt's bringing on. I mean, this show is all about those guys, right? Those new Hollywood rebels, kind of,
Yeah, for sure. I just kind of wish I had and I do. I'll watch I'll pull up like scenes, like a Fellini scene or something. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. But like, what, who did you love when you were studying? Like, who did you?
Yeah, I think it was mentioned earlier. For me, like I guess at the end of the day, when it comes to the film noir, film nouveau, like the European new wave, whatever. I would think Bergman was my favorite for sure. He's just a masterful cinematic mind, and I don't know, like the things I felt watching some of those movies, even with the subtitle, it's all different. It's in Swedish, whatever, but I don't know. He pulled performances out of people, the camera work. I forget the name. Sven Lundquist, I think, was his DP. I might be wrong, but he was working with him DP, and that guy was like a magician too. I mean, the way they use natural light, and the stories are so mystical and weird stuff going on behind the scenes, Seventh Seal and Winter Light and stuff. Man, those are awesome. And Fellini too. Fellini really reached into a different realm a lot too. Like his stuff was really out there, which I just I think they were like really adventurous in their storytelling.
Yeah, and a lot of people who kind of like whose knowledge only extends beyond a certain point in contemporary film might be inclined to think that this modern era filmmaker like invented this style, which was really kind of lifted by so many, right? Or borrowed,
I think you can see it. You can see it in the work too now. Like if a guy is like educated in the history of cinema versus a guy that's just like been watching YouTube reels his whole life, and I mean, it ties into PJ today. He worked with a pretty brilliant director, right? James Manifold, is that his name?
Manifold, and probably butchering that. And Scorsese, of course.
Scorsese was obviously a huge. I mean, he was a student of the highest order. Especially Italian stuff. He loved it.
Man. Yeah, and it was so like you hear these stories about how Scorsese is he wants the characters to be alive and take liberties, and to hear that from PJ was really, really kind of cool, because I know that in the work that I've done, I've never worked for Scorsese, but I've worked with a couple of directors like David Gordon Green and more recently Al Mahershala, who they really did believe that the script was a template, a foundation, and but ultimately we were in trouble if we were sticking to the script. What's the life beyond? What's the life beyond? And we say it in the interview, but my hero Jack Nicholson always says, you want to be a great actor, be a great writer. And I think that's true. And it's like knowing knowing when and who you can do that with and how far you can go. It's just it's pretty great. But inevitably when I watch or when I'm done with a scene and I feel like what the greatest moments were, it was the authentic moment born of the moment, the authentic choice born of the moment that I hadn't planned for. And I'm
open to the magic. That was a good discussion with PJ about well, a few different things, but like improvising, I guess that was interesting about Wolf of Wall Street. You guys will be excited to hear about that. But it's weird because like some of our favorite, like I love the Coen Brothers. I mean, they're almost my favorites of all time, and they're so strict about the script. I mean, you can't really deviate from what they're doing, kind of like Mammoth or whatever, like you were saying too. But I feel like those are like the exception, not the rule, right? Like you got to be really high level genius to hold the actors in such a tight template. I feel like. Like you got, I think most people like let people experiment a little more. It seems like,
because the thing is, the director is and the writer is going to take ownership of all that. When you see these like a guy like PJ Byrne, who's our next guest today, is just to have this like outrageous energy, and still kind of keep the authenticity, that like Wolf of Wall Street, those what a lot of the I understand that these were a lot of these characters were kind of morally bankrupt people, but what I think what a lot of times men attach to is that we see versions of our own friend groups and the way they correspond with each other. We talk a little bit about the talking to each other and like and the gooble gobble, we accept like that's the kind of silly shit that we used to do with our like my friends from back home, what I mean, just silly nonsense shit that again, not co-signing on like on the behavior of a financial firm that stole money from people, but I'm talking more about the relationships and the brotherhood. But I digress. Today's interview was PJ Byrne, and it was on the quicker side, but it was really incredible and everything I had hoped it'd be. And I'm really loving everything he's doing. I'm watching The Big Cigar right now, and I know he's doing the upcoming Bob Dylan film, and he's working with Dito Montiel and a movie Riff Raff. He's really getting into some cool stuff, and I see a guy like that, and I think to myself, good, he deserves it, and I can't wait to see what he's doing.
100%. He's into some exciting stuff. That A Complete Unknown, the Dylan biopic, sounds like he's doing a different kind of style of performance than he's usually done, which is a little more restrained, refined.
Yeah. Oh, and we'll get into it in 1 second, but I wonder. The only thing I read about the description of the Bob Dylan pick is that like it takes place when he started introducing electric guitar. You know what I mean?
The Newport Film Festival when he plugged in, and everybody freaked out.
They like booed him, or was that like
he was a folk artist, and then all of a sudden he plugs in, and everybody went nuts. Like Pete Seeger didn't like it, right? So he's part of the whole American folk movement, right? Woody Guthrie.
Yeah.
Is that where it starts? That's like that's where the story.
I think so. I mean, I don't know, but that's what the IMDb summary says. So
that should be awesome. That's when he started doing some really cool shit. I would.
Yeah. Well, let's dig in. Thank you guys for listening, and we hope you like the interview.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Enjoy.
I often marvel at our next guest and think to myself, how the hell does he do that? He's a perfect blend of comedic genius and rapid-fire authenticity. I'm always convinced he must be improvising at least half of his lines. He's been laugh-out-loud funny in movies like Horrible Bosses and The Wolf of Wall Street. He's shown incredible pathos and intensity in films like Bombshell and Babylon. Currently, he can be seen in Apple TV's Big Cigar, and he's also portraying music manager Harold Leventhal opposite Timothy Chalamet in an upcoming film about Bob Dylan, which excites us as we're big Bob Dylan guys. Although I'm sure he can't reveal much about it, I can't wait to see it. Welcome to the show, one of our favorite actors, PJ Byrne. What's up, Bubba?
What an opening. Jesus Christ. Wow. Man. I'm going to let you down. I'm going to let you down with this.
No, I doubt it. I got to tell you, man, it's true, though. Like, I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but I watch you and I'm like, fuck, dude, it's like you're just playing jazz, man, and I
love you. Listen, I'll sleep with you. What it's fun. Yeah. This is so fun. I'll talk to my wife. Like, we got to click Ani listen. Some things are happening here. Over Zoom, nonetheless. We're not even in the same room. It's a vibe.
You know, when I first met you,
Can I curse? Is this okay? I didn't realize. Like,
I think you're good. I think you're
we're
good.
good. I'm just gonna take my shirt off in a minute. I'll just take my shirt.
Hey, we'll get there. Baby steps. Let's yeah.
Slow it down, dude. Slow it down.
Yeah. Okay, so here we are. So I met you in I guess started, yeah. And let me tell you, first impressions, I tell you what, like I think that what makes this like this kind of business of ours and this fraternity, this brotherhood. I say fraternity, of course I'm including like our actress, sisters out there, but like it's not only just the work and then of course that's a spectrum of how good it can be and how the experience, but like when people are just good to people and kind to people.
Yeah.
And I remember, I believe I guest started on this show with you. It was your and Josh Holloway's show, and I believe Adam Davidson, a great guy, was directing. And he just came up to me at the he came up to me at the table where he's like, "Hey man, I think he said like, hey man, you had a great audition or something really kind." And I was like, "Man, that's kind of cool, man." Just like made it, we could have just gone throughout that experience without even saying hi to each other. So that always kind of stuck with me, man. And I think that that's like when like these exchanges that we have with each other, you know what I mean? Like actors and actresses, it means something in it, And
I mean, truthfully, I mean, looking back, I the motto that I always have in my brain in the back of my head, there's two. There's one like ABA, always be acting, because that will beget more acting. Mm-hmm. And then the other one is ABC, is always be classy. I mean, that's to everyone. That's like the producers, the heads of the studios, down to like the PAs, because they're there at 4 a.m, like 3 hours before you sometimes, and they're staying an hour after you. But that just adds a vibe. It's how I like to live my life, and just be kind. And if you meet other people that know, they're like, "Oh, do you saw PJ say he loves you, whatever." But that sets a vibe throughout the day on the set. It makes me go to bed easier. Like decisions I have to make in my life, it's just how to lead and navigate, this world that you guys know also very well. And then we work a lot of hours on set. We hang out with each other an ungodly amount. And when you're doing those like 14-hour days that you start at Monday, like you get a call time at like 5 a.m, and by the time you get to Friday, because you're so into overtime, and like you're showing up to work at 5 o'clock at night, and you're shooting till like 4 a.m, it is a lot. And if you just have that vibe and you're always positive, you just have less cancers on set. And I do that for a couple of reasons. It's a nice way to live, but also a lot of, now this as well, as we get older, a lot of our friends now are the directors or the writers, and we know the years that they put in to get to that day of shooting this moment that they wrote, that they, battled with executives to keep this in, that they got the money for the crane shot. It's just like, I would be so irate if like we had cameras, like, I want to go home, I want to get out of here. I'm like, dude, this is a 4-year process to get this camera shot, to get this guy's face or girl's face. Like, let's also, and then like, what creativity can I bring to the moment? Because they're sort of peaked on the creative level, because now they're just managing so much stuff. Like, can I thought of a line to help add or sort of make more magic in this one moment that has been a 4-year journey to this second. So there's so much that goes into it. So if you can be a positive actor and just surround yourself with positive people, it just helps a ton. You guys know that.
Yeah, man, no, I think that's
cocaine. Cocaine.
Yeah.
Sorry, the third thing, cocaine helps a ton.
Yeah.
That's how the kids.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and let's be honest. I mean, that's a beautiful philosophy, but the PAs, they can't really help you, so they're probably less important to be kind to.
Jesus.
I'm kidding.
They give you a banana. They give you a banana sometimes if you need that goddamn banana, an espresso shot. It's critical. It's a critical thing.
Yeah, I'm noticing your shirt, DePaul. I was doing some research. You got PJ Byrne, John C. Reilly, Ann Dowd, W.O. Brown, who we had last week, Michael Booker, Geraldine Page.
Yes.
Company. Married to the great Rip Torn, who I worked with and I love dearly.
A company. Abbreviated as company.
It is abbreviated? It's company.
Yeah. Sorry, that's my wife. She says,
no longer.
Be more brief. She's telling me.
Yeah. Abbreviate.
I don't know what that was. I looked up. It's like less than 10% less than 10% of the people who apply for DePaul actually get in. Like
Yeah.
what's and clearly it turns out some great actors. I know you got your undergrad in finance, and then you went to get your master's
Yes.
in theater. Did you have like a span of like 3 months where you had to like try your hand at finance and realize that maybe it wasn't your thing?
Well, I mean, if you want, I'll give you the brief version of all of it. I never really acted until sophomore year, and I lived with like dudes and guys, and were just like who played sports and were just dudes.
Yeah.
With 8 guys, and I had like I had a final session. It was like 5 hardcore like calculus 7 and like accounting. It was just brutal. I remember. And the week before is just like filling up the fridge with beer, going, I'm going to make love to all of this beer when this is over. Because you're a college kid, you're like 19 years old. You're like, let's go. Anyway, so I finished. I came home. It was like 10:30. No one was home. I cracked my first beer. I'm waiting for anyone to come home and just have a nice time with me because finals are over. What are we doing? And finally, like 3 o'clock, one of my roommates comes in, who actually was like ran the radio show. He was the only like non-super jock from LA, went to Loyola High School.
Okay.
Salago, I love this man. I'm like, let's drink. He's like, I'm gonna go audition for a play. And I'm like, he could have said I'm going to Mars and to me in that moment. Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, all right, I'll come audition with you if you come drink with me after. He's like, yeah, it's a monologue. And I'm like, what's a monologue? I didn't even know what a monologue. I was like, what are you talking? He's like, you talk for 2 minutes. And I'm like, all right, let me make something up. He's like, no, the audition's over in 30 minutes. I'm like, all right, let me make something up. So I'm like, I on the fly in my brain, I were telling this old man talking to a shrink. I walk in, they're like, what's the title of the play? I'm like, Cupcakes in Heaven. And then they're like, who's the playwright? I'm like, John Ballard. He's my high school history teacher. So I'm just making everything up. Long story short, I get the part and he does not. That's how it started. And then like faculty saw it. They're like, audition for like a big main stage show. I did that. And then that was like Tartuffe by Moliere. And I was in iambic pentameter. For whatever reason, that just was easy for my, I don't know why. It just was like, oh, I get it. I was also bringing culture to my roommates and they loved it.
Wow.
It was just kind of like a fun thing to do. And then, so I double majored. They're like, you should double major. And I knew my family was in like politics. So the plan was like, go to Wall Street, then get your MBA, then like, get a big job, hopefully, do well in finance, and then literally go into like, be senator of New Jersey or something like that. That was sort of like predestined for me.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you get courted by the banks your senior year that fall. I got a job on Wall Street. It was a great job. And then this is the magic of teachers. This is why I will always give money back to the schools and like support teachers. God bless them. The Dr. Houchy, who's the head of the program, finds me in the hallway. He goes, hey, I think you should turn down that job on Wall Street and go learn to be a proper actor in grad school. And I was like, I think you need to stop drinking Jack Daniels, dude. I like the golden, like, you're nuts.
Yeah.
And I love you.
You're like, Jake is the star in our household.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, so 2 weeks later, and this is the big deal, he pulls me into his office and he goes, all right, look, these are the 3 best schools in the country. He's got these like 3 files. He's like, I filled out your applications for you.
Wow.
He did the paperwork. He got the recommendations. He goes, it means nothing. He's like, they have to see you do 2 auditions. They only take 10 kids. Okay. So if you don't get in, I will not say another word. And obviously I'm so touched by this gesture. I was like, okay. Anyway, so I got into the theater school at DePaul and I was like, fuck it.
Man.
Fuck it.
Wow.
Let's go. And my parents wanted to murder him at that moment. My mom more than my dad, but they were like, you're going to go to school for 3 years. You're not even a lawyer. You still have a job. I'm like, what are you fucking nuts? Yeah.
Oh yeah. But listen, I'm from Texas, and like I remember like when I was in high school, and then there was like this guy that like a friend of like my cousin's that went off to LA to become an actor, and they were talking to him like he was going to rehab, or like that he like they're like, did you hear about Craig? Like, I know what? He's like, he moved to LA to be an actor. Like, oh God,
no tragic story.
Like, oh God, that poor kid. But it's true. Like where I come from, like it was like that. Even though I was obsessed with movies, and I had my first camcorder, and that was all my love. I thought that was it was not even on in the spectrum of what I could imagine. I thought
it's not real.
Were anointed. You know what I mean? But it is important to have that one like person, this professor.
No, Matt, teachers, the power of teachers, man.
Well,
and they don't even know what they're. I mean, if they know, but they'd have no idea that little spark is just like
Yeah.
A nuclear bomb going off down the road. It's crazy.
I recently had I don't know if you reached out to this teacher, but I had a poetry teacher at Texas A&M. That's where I went to school, which is a very conservative.
Let's
school.
Go.
Yeah. And then he was this incredible teacher, and we were writing poetry, and that was like my first introduction to like, oh wow, like, oh, there's like this whole like
the art. There's another side.
Yeah.
Your brain that's like a sponge for it and like
man, right,
dying for it. It's true. And you had no idea because it was never kind of exposed to that. Art and culture and just like not culture, like more art and like just moving your brain spaces it's never been.
Yeah, and now like we have an 8-year-old kid, and that's like we're trying to teach them that no art, like art is life. Art is not like art is not necessarily just like a hobby, but whatever you're doing in life should be an art form. You know what I mean? If it's worth doing, it's worth doing. Pursuing as an art form, you know what I mean?
And giving and knowing that in whatever you're doing, whether it's sports or art or painting something, it's like to give your personal best. Only you know that. We can't tell you. What you did, everything you could to make that the best, or gave as much time as you thought you could. That's the last piece I try to get into their heads. I'm like, did you really give it your all? Only you know that.
Yeah. That's great.
And it's the dab cocaine. We'll skip back just a little.
Yeah.
When in doubt. Make it stop. Make it stop.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to get your kid on at the very least Adderall before the age of 7.
Something.
Yeah.
Stay focused. Yeah.
Yeah. So back to kind of my kind of like amazement with you. So I see you in Horrible Bosses, right? This energy is just so frenetic, right? I got to know how much of that is improvised, because again, it's just like this breakneck speed, and I'm like,
well, all of it. So there's actually there's the unedited version. I don't know if you saw it. That's the one that's like when all the ones that in the unedited version did make it into the real one, I was like, no, that's another thing we have to deal with, because sometimes I'm sure you have this thing where we think of this gold and people are dropping off on sides, laughing while you're doing it. You see their other actors cracking, like, this has got it. This is it. And it doesn't make the cut. And then I remember I talked to the director about it. He's like, what the fuck, dude? That was like some of the greatest. Like, it's like, because I'm passionate about the jokes, and I vetted it with some of the funniest people ever before it even show up. So I'm armed and ready to like kill. And he's like, and you have to remember, you're just a cog in this gigantic process. He goes, after that meeting, when you say all these things you want to do, their dingle dangles in the bathroom, he's like, they're going to decide to kill their boss. So we couldn't make it so outrageously crazy funny. We had to, but you get a bigger taste of it in the unedited versions of all things I want to do. Like, find that version, because that I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I think that might have been one of the ones I referenced.
Yeah. But that's also the thing of like, always be prepared, always be good, because that job in particular, there are a lot of New Line execs and other producers on that job that I've now worked with. Like John Ricardo, I've worked with on like 7 projects, and like Dave Newstadt, I'm like was so tight with the New Line crew because of that movie.
Dave who?
Dave Newstadt is an exec in New Line.
Yeah. I did Conjuring 3 and Within. What a great guy. Yeah.
He's the best. Yeah. Walter Amato was there, and like all those guys, and Brenner. I mean, like they were all at Sam Brown. Like all those guys have now gone on or stayed, but that led to so many more jobs throughout. But like beautiful friendships with those guys, and that's the other thing. Sometimes this, because there's another part of, like, when I came to LA, I worked in development for a little while I was doing commercials. But like the idea of like sometimes there's a separation of like the studio and the producers and the actors, and there's like there's certain, like they don't approach you there sometimes. I think the more we interact, and that it's just another part of like making things go smoother, and ideas are exchanged easier. There's just not games how it comes to you, like, what did they want? Like, I don't even know, like, what, it's you coming from somewhere else. Like, let's just kind of get it from the source, and we could make it happen, because we're dealing with such limited time when you're trying to create.
Yeah. No, I love that. But we were talking about Horrible Bosses. No, I'm kidding. But I want to talk. I want to finish.
Yeah, that's it. That moment got a lot.
But and also like watching I think I kind of study Jason Bateman a lot because it seems like he's always taking the perspective of the audience, which is like, oh, like whatever, like wherever it falls in the spectrum of like normal to outrageous, he's like, you know, it seems like, oh, it won't cover your drink, you know, and it's just a brilliant. I just love it, man. But I'm always just blown away. And I was talking to while I was watching some of your stuff with my son the other day, and I'm like what he's doing is it's a hard thing to do. It really is.
I love it. Bateman's great because just a nod to Bateman, he's amazing because he's the greatest understated guy with so much going on. Think about all the varied things he's done. It's like he's still like making so many interesting choices, even though he's like operating in this little tiny smaller river than all of us.
Yeah,
so much is fucking happening.
Yeah. Yeah,
I try to steal from him as I'm getting older now, going, you know, like take his, like he's really seeing things, like he triggers a lot in my brain now of like new ways to go in my acting. Yeah. Just so much like less but more. I don't know. It's
incredible straight man.
He's so sweet. Yeah.
And I remember being my son's age, 8, and seeing him in like the Hogan show and being like, and I still remember the line he said to like Sandy Hogan, like, haven't you heard a word I've said? And I remember before I knew anything as an 8-year-old saying that's a good, like identifying him as a good actor.
With an honest performance.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Authenticity.
And just guys and pros who've been doing it so long, and just like when you're on set with them, they're like 9 chess moves ahead. They're like knowing what's going to happen. Kevin Bacon is another one. He's just like, he's so hyper aware of like what's happening, and then ready to like, and also just be cool and kind. And they know we keep a tight little bubble, and we're doing it, and we're just here and present. And that's why I like working with like sometimes the people have been doing it for so long, or like who are lovely because they know how to keep the bubble tight and interesting.
Yeah. You know, I completely agree. I'm wondering, and it's also back to the improvisation. I imagine sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Dude. That's a tip to the world. Never pitch a joke. If you want to pitch a joke to the director, it's dead at arrival.
Right.
When they go action, that's the way they're going to see it, because they're looking at you perfectly, listening perfectly. They're watching the reactions of everyone set. Don't you pitch a joke before is dead at arrival. And it's not because they're not thoroughly listening to you. It's like they have 19 other things to do. They're trying to get so much in the day. And they don't want this to start a snowball effect where everyone's ripping now. You got to hear jokes from it. It's just like, no, let's just keep going. So just do it, the action.
But you know, and also I once you're kind of known for that, like, and they recognize you as someone, then you get more license. But there's got to be more license on, like, a first time director comes and they're just happy to get PJ, and they're like, okay, just do what you do.
Yeah, you know, you do.
But then
you got to bring. Here's a note to that though too. No matter who it is, and people know that I'm going to come armed with weapons, you got to drop your nuclear bomb first, because you have to like gain respect, like get that freedom, and that'll happen on TV shows, that'll happen in movies, that'll happen on shows that are like, I remember like one, for example, The Boys, and Eric Kripke is this great writer. He's really funny, and you don't have a lot of wiggle room. So I'm like, I need to bring a nuclear bomb immediately to just have a little space. I'm not here to like change all his words because he writes some magic stuff, but you got to bring a bomb to go, all right, he's allowed to give a little soup salt, if you will.
Lead with your best, right? Yeah.
Dude. Don't fucking hold it, because when they go, don't add anything, like now you've got a whole bag of luggage with like.
You haven't seen my other shit. It's great.
This is great shit ever. It's in the back. I just wanted to have a little. No, drop the nuclear bomb right away.
I got to imagine that when Martin Scorsese puts you in Wolf of Wall Street, he's probably seen you in something like Horrible Bosses. Like, oh, he's funny in that, right? Or do you not know that necessarily?
The thing with Marty is, we auditioned, and we all had to. There was like a group of 7 of us, those 7 guys that you see us all roll with Leo sort of the whole way. We had to audition with the monologue pitching the stock, and having done finance before and sort of knowing that world, I'm like, I'm just gonna I gotta take a swing here. I'm just gonna write my own monologue, and that was it. And I came up with a monologue where I pick up the phone, like looking for Mr. Peterson. I find out I talk to his widow that he passed away, and I just start humping the desk because like that's just an easy mark. And like I'm garnering information of like, when did he pass? Oh my God, I talked to him a month before that. I'm like, oh, I'm pulling up the paper here of your grandkids. You're like, what are their names? She's like, oh, Bill and Tommy. Yeah, yeah, that's right. How old were they again? Good. I'm like, he wanted to pay for their college education. It's just so, and I'm just fucking a desk, like looking at people, I'm like, I got this. Anyway, that was it. And then I'll never forget, he like, when we were rehearsing, he like had memorized it and it was like reading it back to us. It was like just insane shit. It was
what you would effectively
yeah, there was like we were doing our rehearsal. He's like, oh, how do we do this? And he looks at Lee like, you remember that? Did I tell you about PJ's mom? Like, oh, so we can't use it. It's just too long. But it was yeah. And then he just had, it was like, knew it so well. He was like reading it back. I was like, what the fuck? I'm done. I don't have to. That was it. And then from that moment on, he also I just had free reign to riff and play. But just to clarify, when I say I'm improvising, just so I know this about acting, and the process of me is getting the script and then doing everything I learned in grad school, like the fundamentals of, getting my master's in acting is like, what's your objective for the scene in this line? What's your super objective? Like each sentence, like how do you slap them with a line, massage them with a line, like all the fundamentals that we learn in grad school. And then after that, then the PJ brain will take over. I'm like, what can I add now? Because it just happens. Like that's not trite, that no one's ever heard before.
Yeah.
Wall Street is a good example because it's just like, we're not nice guys, and it was just always, I want to fuck that bitch, and like, oh, she's fucking hot. Like, we can do better than that, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
What can I say and add sort of a non-trite statement? Here's a good example. Alexa, off. I'm sorry.
Is that you? Okay, I'm glad it's not me.
Yeah. Hello. Anyway, so here's a good example. So anyway, so I'll do that, and then I'll come up with lines, and then I'll call my buddies, and they're some of the funniest guys, and like bet jokes, and they'll trigger something in my head. So like one of the funniest lines I said in Wolf of Wall Street is actually from my buddy Terry Scannell. It's the funniest guy. It's when you see Margot Robbie, and this is terrible. I apologize still to everyone. It was a terrible, mean joke, but this is who these guys were. The first time you see Margot Robbie, and it's the 80s, I don't want to like, oh, I want to fuck her a bit, whatever. She's, oh my God, I go, she's so hot, I'd let her give me AIDS. Like that's a terrible, horrible joke, but it's like you don't hear that every day.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. But and so then having those arms, but then also forgetting everything now, and then being present with the other actor. So then if they want to rip, I'm completely open and ready to see where the scene is going to go. And if it's getting low and you see just moments to go, oh, I got a suitcase of shit now to throw in the mix. And sometimes when you're with other great improvisers, they're going to fucking run. And now you're living in a whole brand new, ocean you've never even been to. That's the super sweet spot where everyone is just like in the zone, and we're just jumping on each other's like boats to boat to boat to boat to boat, and we're getting wherever we have to go. That's the best. And Marty loves that. Marty's like, okay, yeah, let's play with it. Let's keep it messy. It's clean. Like let's just
Yeah, and that's what it's like. Jack Nicholson says, you want to be a great actor, then learn to be a great writer.
Yes, that's massive. And then the directors I sort of get along with the best are the ones that are like, we've hired you, now just be free.
Yeah, man.
They trust now that you've done the work. You're not like bringing boring things that sound like all things we've heard before, and you're being trite. It's like you got to be this. You got to bring original, interesting things are going to add sparks to moments.
Yeah, that's why I think I'd probably be a little terrified to work with Mamet.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I actually went and read this Mamet a couple of weeks ago, and it was like it's being so word perfect. I mean, the language is obviously brilliant and beautiful, but damn.
Yeah.
So when you guys, sorry, I'll graduate from this soon, but when you guys are saying Google gobble, we accept her, which is
that was Leo. Leo added that. Yeah.
Oh, really? That was improvised.
Interesting.
Leo loved that movie. That was a movie that sort of blew his mind.
Right.
We're talking about the Freaks.
Yeah. That blew his mind when he was a young kid. I think it always stuck with him. He's like, oh my God. And then just like We Are Freaks. Now it's sort of like had so much.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about that. Like, there's like, well, those are like kind of literal, for like grotesque and maybe there's like this parallel between you guys being figuratively grotesque in this kind of world of excess, deviating from the societal norms, like, kind of like grotesque figuratively.
I mean, that's the magic of movies and art. It's like whatever you're garnering from that, but he knew that's a spark to go, you decide.
Yeah. What most times what we as the audience members can impart upon a scene is much more interesting than what the director had in mind, which for years, it's so funny because I had always take exception to like when Bob Dylan, who's, one of my creative heroes, but when he would like, I don't know, man, it was just flowing through me. I was like, no, what did you mean? And then it took years to understand. Oh, I get it. It's not meant this. It's much more rewarding for you to figure out what it means to yourself.
And you can hit more and more people with that, like, so you can a bigger swap of the world.
Yeah, man. So do you? Sorry, this is switching gears for a little bit. Do you ever feel
right? Sometimes I can.
Yeah.
True. Let's get personal.
Yeah.
When was your last? I'm okay on the hemorrhoid front. I'm okay. I don't need any creams. No creams.
And your colonoscopy was clean?
Actually, great. Thank God. Yes, it was. I'm good to go. Let's keep it going. I can do the show next year. Hopefully.
I took a picture of they send you the pictures of the colonoscopy, and yesterday at dinner, my son was flipping through the pictures, and we were a group of people, and he shows the picture, and he goes, "Dad, what's this?" And I'm like, "It's just
that's a polyp. That's called a polyp."
No, that's he's like, "Let's not show that." Son.
That's a benign polyp. Son.
Yeah.
Give yourself a couple of years, and you'll figure it out.
Yeah. So, do you feel like that this breakneck speed in which the industry's been expanding for like 15 years since it devalues the artist?
Oh, as we are devaluing the artist now in current state, I
think not necessarily currently, because I feel like we're contracting currently, and I think it might be going to a better place. But like these last,
I think we're getting. I mean, we have, because I know for me, we've been sort of the pay. We're constantly fighting for like upping our pay, and it just keeps to be staying.
Sure.
We're lowering. Like, we're not doing that. We're not breaking top of show. We're not. No one's. They're like, don't audition if you even want to. They can break a top of show. You're like, wait, what's going on here?
Yeah.
It's wild. So, I mean, we're in a weird spot right now. Even now, we're contracting on top of it. So I don't know. I just feel lucky to.
Yeah.
And maybe they want us to go, you should be lucky to even be working. I'm like, really? What do we? But I also on some level, I'm like, now's the time I want to start creating what's in PJ's brain to go out. But
yeah,
I have 3 kids, so I always say, I'm like, I work in bulk because I have 3 children, and I'm game for everything. And I also, my theory of ABA, always be acting, is me on a job will get me another job. The best and I can for the next job is like, just see me on set and see me when they say action, and you're like, whoa, because you when you're making shows, you guys know this too. It's like, we got to get it. Like, we got to get it, and we got to go on. We got to like fucking nail it, bring something special, and then I got to go on and just keep pushing. And then they see a lot though in editing, because if I add stuff like, fuck, thank God you did that, or just even sometimes how you're listening. Like, I was able to cut to you because you were so intently like listening in an interesting way that I was able to go back to a different take of that guy, because we needed the mood to be completely like higher or lower or more intimate or whatever. Thank God. So it's just like, that's you on set is getting you the next job. But I got to tell you, it's like, do your homework. Like, I come so overly psychotically prepared.
Yeah.
But I like doing. My favorite part is, I rehearse with a buddy. His name's Tom Byer. He's fucking an awesome actor. He's really an incredible director in his own right. And that to me is some of the favorite times, of figuring out the chess move of how to get to the other end of the board, and like just the wild shit that we go through to like figure it out. That's the most fun part to me. And then so when I do show up at set, like, I'm so prepared. I've got things armed in the luggage, and I've probably done it the way the director wanted to, because I've just been through so many versions of whatever we're working on. So that's
no, I agree, man. I feel like that's so much of what I enjoy about it is derived from process. Even to the extent that I used to just be another thing. When I would hear actors say they don't watch their own stuff, I'd be like, first of all, you're either full of shit, or B, uh, I just don't believe you. But now, again, another thing that I've shifted perspective on is, I sometimes I care so much about it, and the process was so great. It's like I'm kind of scared because what if it doesn't live up to that?
I know how much work we put. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe that's part of the pay. Like, listen, when you hire me to do a job and you're gonna send me away from I'm away from my family now. So that means I'm committed to this job and the art of whatever we're trying to take.
Mhm.
I've gone from them for months. I actually, on the only positive part of COVID for me is when you would go into these quarantines for 2 weeks. To me, that was like, oh, dude, let's go. Because I literally would just like sit in my hotel room in front of my script and just for like, I don't know, 12 hours a day, just going through the script and adding and thinking and like, for me, just coming in and ordering, like that was like the greatest gift ever. Cause like, that's what I do anyway. I mean, I will go to a city. They're like, did you see? I'm like, oh, I was in my hotel room for fucking like all the time, figuring this shit out. And I didn't see any of this. I'm like, you were in Copenhagen. Like, where? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's something I need to get better at. And like, as I get older, it's like better on the body to like, just turn off for a minute. You did the work, trust it. Like go out one night. If you're not, I'll never go out the night before I'm working the next day. But like, if you're not working the next day, like just go turn off. And I need to be a little, truthfully, I need to be a little better at that, of like turning off, because it's because we come down to the idea of quote unquote improvising, which is sort of just being armed with good stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know when it's coming in. I don't know when the joke or the thought or the intimate moment or the choice I'm going to make is going to come into my brain or spark. So I'm like, I always try to fucking, even on weekends, I'm like, I don't know when it's going to come. So I just want to be prepared, or just, I'm constantly thinking about it, that character, and what's coming that week or the week after. And that's why I can't turn off, because I just want to be open to it constantly. And I need to be better at that. That's my new thing.
Well, it's interesting because you talk about catching these impulses that like are in addition to what we've gotten from the script, right? Like,
yes.
But you kind of are catching so much, right? You having so much in your arsenal, you know what I mean?
There's a lot coming, yeah.
Do you still do you find that you've caught so much in preparation that less comes in the moment, or there's still just infinite? Like Chris Bauer talks to us about, like on this show, about how there's this infinite well of of impulses, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And if he's not hitting like 9 of those in a scene, like if he's not constantly operating from that place, I'm like, man, if I get one, I'm fucking elated.
I know what he said. It's the idea. It's the idea of like impulses or creativity or like mad ideas that are coming to your brain. And for me, I know what he's talking about. In the beginning, when there's no pressure and I'm just reading it, it is like a fucking fire hose of ideas. It's overwhelming. So that's why I really always try to have a pen when I'm reading the first time, even if I don't even know I'm going to have the job. If I'm like, fuck, there's some shit just in case I get this job, I got to get it down, because there's no pressure at all. And then you get the job, you try to read again, it's still coming in. And then I know the closer I get to it, it's sort of like fucking is tight. It's super tight. That's when I like try to work with other friends, because that will trigger new pathways and open up new like neurons in my brain. Like, oh, okay, good. Yeah, we could do that. And that calms me down a little bit as well, because I'm doing the work. And then as I get really close to it, it's fucking like nothing. Like, oh shit. And then for whatever happens every time on set, because your body knows now you've done the work, you know the choices you're going to make, and then you're open to anything. The day of, it's like fucking great again. It's just like, it's all back, because it can't just be your mind anymore. It has to be the scene, the other actors. You have to be open to so much on the day, and you can't make things so fucking precious that you've made this choice, and you have to be so fucking tight to this choice that sometimes I see other actors, I've done this myself, but you're just like, I'm in a different scene than everybody because I'm trying to fit like my fucking circle into their square. It's just not happening. Like you can like get a square going right now. And sometimes it's as simple as like, this other actor just talks really fucking soft. It's just like they're talking like, and they'll turn it up. You'll have no idea when you're watching the movie. They're just turning up their volume and you're completely in the same scene. But like, it's just like, fuck, I need to like, I saw this scene completely differently. I'm coming fucking hot and crazy, and they're just, and it's almost like I can't fucking hear them. And like, now I've got to do a different thing where I've got to imagine what they're saying. Sometimes I'm not even fucking hearing them. I'm like, okay, I got to really adjust. And that's the thing. You're constantly adjusting. Not whatever you think of at home, it's rarely exactly what's going to happen on the day. I find that so many times.
Yeah.
Where the DP is like, I needed the light over here because the thing, or the director's like, just don't move, just like fucking hit it and like think and there's so much changing. And sometimes like, let's have fun with it, really blow it out. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, well, and another reason why I really look up and study you is what you talk about is like let's talk about like someone like Nick Cage, right? Like he's always been this punk rock guy, right? And we are a generation of actors, ever since, Brando or whatever, we got submerged in this new wave of like authenticity. And then the whole thing was, no, do less, do less, do less. And I think you see it a lot with these, like you get these performances, people are just stillness. They're afraid to do anything. And it's kind of this very efficient type thing. And it's all because we're a generation of actors or a generation of actors who've been told in acting class, do less, do less, do less. Where guys like you, Nick Cage, I know there's others. That's great. But like hyper realism or neo realism or whatever the fuck you'd call it is fantastic, and we all love authentic performances. But this is a big instrument. Sometimes you want to play fucking jazz. Sometimes you want to play punk rock. You're punk rock, PJ. Nick Cage.
I love you. Well, Kevin Anderson came to our school at the theater school, and I stick to me all the time. It's like theater is tennis. When you're doing theater, you're playing tennis. You're doing big strokes. You're got people 300 feet away from you. And when you're doing film and TV, it's just ping pong. I mean, it's little lighter, like thinking smaller. I mean, you can move still, but it's just less. And what's really interesting, and this is the most that's ever happened, and it's just I just did the Bob Dylan movie, and James Mangold is great, and I think he's like this super genius, and he's, for actors, it's the least I've ever been, and it's almost the least I've ever spoken. He is so about that, but from his standpoint is he's editing as you're shooting, so he's already ahead of you. He goes, I just want you to still so I can cut to that. I know I can play music and zoom in on your face. You're not saying anything, and then I'm going to cut to him. He's seeing this other thing, and it's a whole different thing. And you're like, I'm just going to be completely give myself over to this man, and I'm going to have the most intimate, thoughtful mind. He's like, the idea of stillness. He taught me stillness in a way I don't think I've ever been that fucking still.
Wow. I can't
probably my whole career. And I was like, fuck it. Like, fuck it. I'm like, oh, let's go. And it was a lot. I mean, there's a lot going on in my mind. That's the most still I've ever been, the least I've ever said, and the most fucking, like, there's a fucking machine happening behind my eyes in the biggest way. And it was scary because I'm so used to adding stuff, and he's like, let's just keep, because he's cutting. So you're like, he's like, he's got it. He's already ahead of you. The chess moves have been made. He's like, I need you rook to 6. That's you. Bam, you're done. And you're like, okay, let's go. And it was kind of an awesome experience. So it's almost like it was almost easier on my brain on some level. I wasn't coming like, I got to get so much out tonight. I got to get it all in. Let me sort of have it in my brain. It was just like, I'm going to come here and trust this man and just be completely open to whatever the fuck he wants me to do. And like, let's go. And it was kind of fucking great. And on some level, but a very different from what most people hire, PJ to do. They're like,
well, yeah,
the fucking walls here. Let's go.
Yeah, man, and I can't wait to see it. I know you're into some good, like I know you're currently shooting some really cool stuff that's gonna.
I'm not here to let you down. I'm not here to let you down. Goddamn, I got 3 kids. Let's be honest. We're doing this for these 3 children.
Yeah, I know we only got a few minutes.
All for the kids.
Yeah, you play a lot of real people, right?
Yes.
And me and Brendan were talking. What were you asking earlier, Brendan, about?
Well, yeah, just I mean, you've been playing these powerhouse biopic characters, Like by the way, the Bob Dylan movie is called Complete Unknown, right, PJ?
That's yes, you got it. Thanks, Brent. Great job. Good research.
Plug that in there.
Good research.
So people know. But no, I'm not an actor myself. Done some filmmaking, whatever. But I imagine
you're doing great right now, Brent. You're doing fantastic right now. So handsome, strong.
Oh man,
beard. Is that a real beard? We don't know. It looks real. Looks so real. It's incredible.
Some days.
Yeah.
But no, I imagine it's a slippery slope, between like a powerful interpretation and maybe a less compelling impression or impersonation. Just curious how you.
It's not. Yeah, it's a constant like balance of, being true to that person and honoring who they are and their legacy, and and then it's just like, you don't want to get caught up in doing an impersonation. You don't want to be like, what the fuck? What is it like? You still want to know that you're watching a genuine human being on the screen, and you have to honor that. And then you have to you also have to take creative license and like make interesting choices that maybe that person would not have made. So that's the balance. I know. I don't know if this is Marty or sometimes certain directors or actors don't like the real people on set, and it's not because they don't want to honor their story or whatever. But sometimes when you're trying to be creative, like I would never hold the coffee cup like that. I would hold it like this, and you're like, but I'm doing. There's a reason the actor, I'm holding it like this because it's more interesting to get the da 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 da. And they're just like, if you're gonna be me, or this is exactly how it happened. But sometimes that doesn't play into the idea of telling the better story or more artistic way to tell the story. So meet with them, talk to them, or get as much stuff online or just as you can. And then I try to keep that early, because then it's just like, then I just want to have like a good, just a light imprint on me, and then now I can go off and just be and service the story.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We talk about like, two equally compelling performances are Jamie Foxx, Ray Charles, which was like right on the money, which was fantastic, by the way. Yeah. And then we got like Joaquin, who's doing kind of an essence of a Johnny Cash thing, both equally, like both compelling as hell. Yeah. But that's a whole other like rabbit hole we could go down of like what. Yeah. I don't know. I know that we're out of time.
Well, I know that, but I mean, in those two scenarios you have one who's an insane impersonator who also is a great artist. So he's like, if I can do and be this guy exactly, like, and I can do that seamlessly, I think he can be anyone. He can be, if he walked in the room and heard me talk for 1 minute, he can do me better than I do me. So it's like, he fucking be spot on, and then insert art, because it's not, I don't think he's like jumping out of anything. He's just living in that person, and he can do that. And I was saying Joaquin can't do an impression, but Joaquin, I feel, is like, I'm living in the mold. What's happening on the day? Let's play with whatever that is. And he's a genius of doing that sort of river. So it's like they have their two lanes, but as far as like making art fucking gold, that's where they want to get, and they both get there, but just different ways.
Yeah, man. I want to say that, like, thank you.
I love you, damn it. I love you, Ronnie. Brendan, I love you too. Great actor. You're a great actor, Brendan. You've been incredible.
We sometimes take a break off this show, and it's not because there's a lot of actors that like come up and it's like, he's great, but it does, like, this show was really kind of, we started it because me and Brendan would literally say, oh, I love that guy. I love that guy. You know what I mean?
I'll sleep with you. It's fine.
Yeah, like, so sometimes what people will reach out about their actors and like, he's a great actor, man. He's cool, but it does since it's our show, it kind of requires us to be like, it has to have that fucking thing that you see when you see the person, and you're the quintessential that guy.
I do love you guys for doing it. It's a big deal. We all need this. It's critical that we all hear about other actors and their journey and their path and their choices and because it helps all of us. It really,
man.
Your show is an important show, and I actually hope like a lot of younger actors listen to your show, because there's so many good gems. It just shows people like, A, it's possible, and B, like, listen to their journey and listen to how they do the work and listen to all the work that they put in. Like, that's part of it. It's just like, it's one thing to want to be an actor and work and be successful, but it's like, at least for me, it's like, you got to bust your fucking ass, be the most prepared person, always be active with your friends or create your own stuff, because you're learning about whatever you are. And then the other thing, ABC, always be classy. Always be a good fucking person. Whether it's the choices you're going to make, the people you're going to hang out with, whatever. And that permeates your whole life. Like how you deal with your kids and their parents. Like, just always be a classy human being. And that just makes this road of life easier too. So
totally. And I'm learning so much. Like you're saying that, like, you'll always be classy. And from what I hear from you, even to the people who can't help you, you should be classy.
Well, everyone. That means
I'm joking.
Yeah,
that was
even those people too. You're like, listen, dude.
I hope people know that I'm trying to be funny.
You're doing great, Ronnie. You're doing great. You're doing great.
All right, buddy. Go.
I love you guys. I'm proud of you.
We'll talk soon. Thanks.
All right, I love you.
All right, talk soon. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye. Of course, anytime.